Okay, so now we're playing some Pathfinder, the adventure card game. Balmy Leader, I don't see a question mark at the end of that sentence, but it seems like you're maybe asking me if I like the Green Lantern movie. I got real mixed feelings about that one. I was very excited to see it at the time, and it was very exciting because I'm a huge Green Lantern fan, so it was very exciting to see my favorite comic book character in live action. But I had issues with a number of things, the way they treated Hal Jordan as a character. I don't know that Ryan Reynolds' brand of humor is the right fit for that. So a lot of mixed feelings about that. It's basically a movie I would not say is terrible. There have been a number of superhero movies that have come out since then that I have enjoyed a lot less, and that I just out and out disliked. So, but I mean, it's not one that I think I would probably return to anytime soon. Yeah. Hi, Rugged Warrior. Thanks for coming out. It says, when is the Spirit Blade adventure card game coming out? You probably missed this, but like I announced years ago that basically is probably not going to happen, because it got to a point in the development where it required just some skill that I didn't have in terms of balancing and working out kind of the math side of things. There's just some math involved in that kind of process to figure out how to balance things the way that I wanted them to be balanced out. And then also at the time that I was working on that years ago, I mean this is like almost 10 years ago that I was working on the Spirit Blade adventure card game. And I had bought some art assets to use with it that I now think their quality is out of date. I think they would have been good at the time. It was kind of like a it was like digital artwork. And I think today there's just so many better resources, and so it's something that I don't want to commit more time or money to, because without the skills that I think I would need to really move it forward, it would just be a matter of me testing and playing and just kind of beating my head against a wall until it is the experience I want it to be. And I just don't think that's the best use of my limited time here on planet Earth. So I basically, I announced years ago that that is not going anywhere, and I don't have any plans to make it go anywhere. So it's effectively canceled. Okay, so Pathfinder the adventure card game. I've got my character sheets. This is Ezrin, and he's a character that comes with the game, but I play him like Elderast, but he's my wizard character. I've got my two buddies that are going through this whole quest line together. So Ezrin is my wizard, and then I don't even have somebody tanky that's with him to help him out and protect him. No, it's actually more of a roguey type character. I mean, he's not a rogue, but he has some dexterity abilities and disable abilities that help him with traps and chests and stuff. But this is Damiel, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I have no idea. But he's a cool character. He's like an alchemist. And so he's got all these potions and stuff that he can use for all these different situations. And so I really like his skill set. I'm digging on it. And since the last time that I streamed this game, I have finished one quest, and I've started into the next set. See, if you're looking at the adventure path, then the whole adventure path is called Mummy's Mask, right? But you got to play through these adventures that are part of the adventure path in this order. So you've got Cross the Pharaoh's Land, followed by the Half-Dead City, and then Empty Graves was the expansion, or whatever you want to call it, the adventure deck that I finished. And now I'm starting Shifting Sands. Well, I'm not actually starting it. There's one quest. I'm about to do the second quest in Shifting Sands. I actually opted to just skip the first quest in Shifting Sands because they are trying to... See, if you look at the Shifting Sands thing here, what's it called? Muminophara's Amusement is the name of this first scenario. And they're trying to simulate a chariot race in that scenario. And this game is not, I mean, the mechanics of this game are not designed to simulate a chariot race. They are designed to simulate heroes going to different locations, which are each going to have different kinds of things in them. Some of them will have more enemies than others. Some of them will have more items or spells than others. But, you know, that's the proportion of those things kind of matches what you would expect based on the name of the place that you're going to. And so this deck, for each one, these characters are visiting, and then on their turn they're exploring and seeing what's there by drawing a card. So it's simulating that really well. But to try and use this rule set to simulate a chariot race just felt so clunky, so abstract. One of the things that I think makes a game work well, that's a thematic game, is if the mechanics of the rules, you can make a mental connection to what they are simulating in the theme. This is why I ultimately stopped playing and sold my copy of Gloomhaven, because the rules in that game, for example, if you have some leather armor that you're wearing, if you use the leather armor, take advantage of it to mitigate some damage or avoid some damage, then you have to exhaust that card. And that card can only be reused again after you have completed a short rest. And I'm thinking to myself, what does that even mean in terms of like your adventure in the dungeon? That your leather armor got slashed, and so you need to stitch it together again with a short rest before you can be protected by the armor you're wearing? And that's just one example. There's tons of things in that game where mechanically it's brilliant and balanced, and like if you're just looking at the mechanics, that's a super impressive game. But if you want mechanics to represent the theme that they are ostensibly representing, I don't think it does a great job at that. And I thought even worse, the mechanics of this game, Pathfinder Adventure card game, represented a chariot race in that first one. So I didn't even want to play it. I was just like, this is so weird. What you're asking me to do is so convoluted. I'm just gonna try and figure out what I would have gotten, what rewards I would have gotten from completing that, and just take those rewards and move on to the next quest. And this game kind of dishes out rewards slowly enough that I didn't feel like that was going to unbalance anything. So we're moving on to now the... and I'm already making rules changes. As I've mentioned in the past when streaming this game, I'm already making some rules changes to this set. But we're doing Quiet Please. And let's look at any special rules that we have to keep track of here. During this adventure, the Scourge die is 1d6 plus 1. When you are dealt poison damage, if that damage is not reduced by at least 1, suffer the Scourge curse of poisoning. The Scourge die is 1d6 plus 1. I'm trying to remember. The Scourge die. Well, I guess the Scourge die, that's relevant when something asks you to roll the Scourge die. But anyway, when you're dealt poison damage, if that damage is not reduced by at least 1, suffer the Scourge curse of poisoning. And so I've got over here to the side my deck of various scourges that I might need to use. And then I've got a little sticky pad, a sticky note off to the left here that I'm going to use to write down a couple of these effects to help me remember them. Let me grab a Sharpie real fast. I'm just going to write a note that says poison, so that I remember whenever poison comes into play, there's a special rule I need to try and remember related to poison. And I think that is it for what I need to keep track of on that card. So let's see, specific to this scenario, which is called Quiet Please, we've got... Well, actually, let me catch you guys up on the story a little bit. Read this flavor text here, so you have a sense of what we're doing, what's going on here. Mummy's Mask, the overall story, reads, Osirian, the land of pharaohs, is home to ancient cultures and creatures seen nowhere else. The power of the elements is strong in this land, as is that of the Osirian gods. Adventurers from all across Golarion brave the burning sun to uncover riches of a lost history buried in the tombs of generations past. Dark secrets lie here, and the soul of a forgotten pharaoh has risen to begin a new kingdom ruled by the undead. So yeah, we want to stop this kingdom of the undead, I'm sure. Let's see here. Shifting Sands is the name of this adventure path. Of this adventure. Chasing the legend of the forgotten pharaoh leads to Tefu, the jewel of the river Sphinx. Gain the favor you need to access the great library. The memories of those who served the pharaohs of old are well guarded and kept far from the living. Where the names of the dead wield power, no one is forgotten by accident. In the uncharted wastes beyond Tefu lies the last memory of why the pharaoh was forgotten. So it seems like from this flavor text that Shifting Sands is about recovering information about this pharaoh that's rising from the dead, presumably so that I can use that to defeat him. The theme here, I mean, the story is pretty light in Pathfinder, the adventure card game, which I actually don't mind even when I'm playing paper and pencil or especially video game RPGs. The story is not what I'm in it for. I'm in it for like the moment-to-moment gameplay, building up my guys, making them more powerful and stuff. Let's see here. Quiet Please is the name of this particular scenario that we're playing. It says, the Great Library of Tefu has stood for more than 1,000 years because curators like Deka Ankeret protect its records. In vaults long disremembered by the living, clockwork guardians patrol uncounted miles of papyrus. If the name of the forgotten pharaoh is to be found, it will be here. Make yourself a whisper, as any disturbance will alert the curators. So maybe there'll be some stealth checks along the way that we're going to have to succeed at to avoid trouble. But yeah, we're in this library looking for information. Looks like the villain is Deka Ankeret. He's the curator. So basically, I'm searching this library. I'm going to have to defeat the curator in order to get the information that I need. So that makes sense. It's pretty straightforward. Go through the areas and find the big bad and kill him and get out with loot. And that's really what I want from a dungeon crawl. Okay, so special rules for this scenario. If the result of your combat check is greater than 19, bury a random card, then summon and encounter the henchman Voices of the Spire. So this is the henchman Voices of the Spire right here. Not too bad. Hang on. The difficulty to defeat is increased by twice the scenario's adventure deck number. And that's 3 for this scenario. So crap. He's actually got a combat check to defeat of 14. Yeah. Or 13 if I'm if I'm trying to do charisma diplomacy to take care of him. If defeated by a combat check, or if undefeated, suffer the Scourge Curse of Vulnerability. That sucks. If defeated, may immediately attempt to close the location this henchman came from. Well, he doesn't come from those locations. He's just summoned, so I can't actually use a fight with him to close a location. So this guy sucks. What's the deal? If the result of your combat check is greater than 19. So I'm just going to put a note that says combat 20 plus. That sucks. I really do not want to have to deal with that, but I probably will at some point. Especially since Elderast, or Ezrin as he goes by temporarily in this world, Elderast likes to, he likes to do some of the overkill on his enemies. To display his glory! Alright. So I think we're ready. I first have to draw their hand of cards, so Ezrin has a hand size of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. His favored card type is one that has the attack trait, and so I definitely have one of those. So good, he's starting out with a nice assortment of attack spells. Good, there's one to remove the a curse, which those are fairly common in this adventure path. Spear of the Watchful Guardian, and some armor. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. Sorry, let me catch up on on a question here. Balmy Leader asked a while back, have you read the Bass Reeves comics? I have not. I have not. All right. Oh, yeah, thank you, Balmy Leader. I got to change the game title. Because it says Hero Quest right now, doesn't it? All right. Let's see here. And let's see if this will fit. Hello? There we go. Yeah, that fits. Okay. All right, thank you for that, Balmy Leader. So yeah, Ezrin is going to go first. And let's see here. Yeah, he's just going to explore the Great Library. I mean, I always tend to set up my magic user to visit the place first that has the most spells, because he's just greedy for knowledge and power. Let's see here. I need to actually, before I do anything else, I just realized I don't think I set a timer to remind myself to stop at 11:45, and I've got to do that so that I don't miss picking up my son from school. Let's see here. Edit, not 11:29, but 11:45 a.m. Save. All right, now we're good. All right, so let's see. Any special rules at the Great Library of Tefu? When you fail to acquire a boon, shuffle it into this location deck. Okay, so that's nice. I get a second chance if it gets shuffled back in of getting it again. To close it, succeed at an Intelligence or Knowledge 6 check. Well, Elderast is totally up for that. And then upon closing, draw a spell from the box. Well, I'm very happy to have Elderast here. So let's see what's going on here. Oh, I forgot. I got to draw a card from discard a card from the Blessings deck. You've got a timer that's constantly running in this game. You can't really see it. It's just up to the upper right there. All right, let's see what we got. Alchemical gas. Crap. This would be something better for Damiel to handle. It's a barrier. If undefeated, display this card next to your location. While displayed, if you start your turn at this location, bury a weapon or an armor, then you may succeed at a Constitution, Fortitude, Intelligence, or Craft 7 check to banish this card. So this is a barrier of alchemical gas, which, if it's kind of a trap too, or they're calling it an obstacle. It's not technically being labeled as a trap. But if I don't find my way around it, it kind of gets set off, and then it's going to stick around at this location and corrode, basically, weapons and armor. So I can use Intelligence, Disable, or Craft to roll and try and get a 7 or better. So he doesn't have Disable or Craft, but he does have Intelligence, and pretty good Intelligence, too. He uses a D12 plus 1 when rolling for Intelligence. So, do I have any cards that are going to help me out here? D12 plus 1, that could still go south really easily. I don't think I do. Perception. Non-villain Bane's power that happens before you act. No. If proficient with light armors, no. Let's, since I'm supposed to draw his hand before the game starts anyway, let me draw Damiel's hand, just on the off chance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is his hand size. Just on the off chance he has a card that can help Elderast, even though he's not at the same location. Sometimes you run into cards like that. Doesn't look like that is going to be the case here. Nope. Okay. So Elderast is on his own. He's got to roll a D12 plus 1 and get a 7 or better. Let's see what happens here. Ooh, look at that. 11 plus 1 is 12. That's nowhere close to that 20 or more that I got to watch out for. I guess it's not a combat check anyway, so we're good. But he does successfully avoid the alchemical gas. Oh, let me grab the box. I forgot to get the box out for this. gosh, come on now. There we go. All right. Yeah, you're very often discarding cards back into the box and sometimes pulling cards out of the box. So we got to have that handy. All right, so that's it. I don't think I have any cards that are going to let me explore again. No, I do not. And so he's done his one free exploration for the turn. So now we're moving on to Damiel, who is currently at the Pleasure Barge. Let's look at this. Oh, I forgot to read the description of the Great Library of Tefu. Let's do that. I like to do that the first time I visit a location. A fortress of knowledge, the Great Library holds sage wisdom stretching back to the birth of writing itself. A cadre, is it cadre or cadre? I think it's cadre. A cadre of librarians guard it zealously, armed with keen memories and swords. Trespassers meet their end by a librarian's hand or wither away in the uncountable stacks of scrolls that twist through tunnels deep into the earth. My sister once heard from, I don't know where she heard this. It was a podcaster or somebody that said never make fun of somebody who mispronounces a word, because that means that they read it somewhere and that they're a reader who is reading words with vocabulary outside of the conversational level that we typically hear every day. And so that's actually a good thing, that someone is reading outside of conversational vocabulary levels. You can make fun of me if you want, but just a bit of wisdom, I think. That's a good perspective on that. Okay, so the Pleasure Barge that Damiel is at says, Muminofra holds court upon a mountain of satin pillows amid gold-embroidered drapes and oiled servants. Her barge is docked ostentatiously in view, a reminder that her wealth and power stands well apart from the common folk of Tefu. Yeah, okay, so what's going on here? Why did I come here? I usually send Damiel where there are items, or where he's just going to be good at closing it. So let's see here. At this location, when you fail to acquire an ally, you are dealt 1d4 poison damage. That's interesting thematically. They do some interesting things in terms of the theme and the mechanics in this game. Because here you're at this Pleasure Barge, and so you might ask yourself, well, why would that happen? Well, the sense I get from that is that if you're not making friends with people on this high society Pleasure Barge, you're getting stabbed in the back. You're making enemies. You know, everybody's maneuvering and stuff. The people in high society are maneuvering and trying to get power and ultimately in it for themselves. So I can imagine, you know, a little bit of story elements there by looking at that mechanic. When closing, succeed at a Charisma or Diplomacy 9 check. All right. At the end of your turn, after permanently closed, you may recharge a card from your discard pile. Okay. All right. So I think I can handle that. I gotta remember, though, when you fail to acquire an ally, you're dealt 1d4 poison damage. Yikes! That is nasty. That is nasty. All right, what do we got for Damiel? Already, we run into the Henchman. Now, if you're not familiar with this game, in 3 out of 4 of these decks, this is randomly determined, so I don't know. 3 out of 4 of these decks have a Henchman. Often they're identical, the same type of henchman. Sometimes there's more than one type of henchman that gets shuffled in. And then one of these locations has the villain. And the villain for the scenario is usually what you have to encounter and defeat in order to beat the whole scenario. But when you run into a henchman, after fighting it, you can close that location. And so that prevents the villain from potentially escaping there if you were to encounter them and then fail at defeating them. They can escape and be randomized into an unclosed location. So now I'm a little bit bummed to run into the henchman so soon, because if I defeat him, then I can't get any of the cards that are in this location that might have been good. You know, there were 5 allies here I could potentially gain, and 2 blessings and a spell, 1 item, you know. But that's not that big of a deal. Damiel can only have 2 allies in his deck to begin with, so he's not super seeking after allies. That 1 item would have been nice, but there are 2 other locations that also have 1 item in them, so, you know, it's not a big deal. I actually wouldn't mind defeating this henchman and closing this location right now. So it's the Tefu Librarian. The check to defeat can use combat, wisdom, knowledge, or diplomacy, and I need to get a 12 or better. And the powers include the Tenfu Librarian is immune to the mental and poison traits. That might limit some of what Damiel can do because he uses poison quite a bit. Mental, not so much. Before you act, succeed at a Stealth 8 check, or the difficulty of the combat check to defeat is increased by 4. So it's kind of like you have the opportunity to sneak up on this guy and get in a real good hit if you can sneak up on him. But if you can't, then the combat check to defeat him is increased by 4. So again, cool marriage of theme to mechanics. If undefeated, move to a random other location. That sucks. Usually they just get shuffled back into the same deck. If defeated, draw an item from the box. Then you may immediately attempt to close the location this henchman came from. Okay. Okay. Alright. So, combat, wisdom, knowledge, or diplomacy. Combat, his wisdom is d6 plus 2. That's not going to work. So he doesn't even have diplomacy. Knowledge, he doesn't have knowledge. Yeah. He's got intelligence, but he doesn't have knowledge. So let's see here. It's going to have to be combat, I think. So what can we do that's combat-y, that's not poison-y? Not that. That's not going to help. Ooh, what's this? Galvanic Chakram. +1. For your next combat check, reveal this card to use your dexterity or ranged skill plus 1d8 plus 1. And he's got a really nice ranged skill. You may additionally discard this card to add another 1d6. If proficient with weapons, which I am, as Damiel, discard this card to ignore a non-villain monster's power that happens before you act. If proficient, discard this... Oh, that's a separate ability, though. I think I can't use that if I'm going to use the combat check ability. If proficient with weapons on your combat check, if you played another weapon, discard this card to add 1d4 plus 1. So it kind of has an offhand bonus. It can be a secondary weapon. I'll be using it for this first one here. But I think, before I act, I need to try and do this stealth check. Oh, here's another weapon. This is not poison. It looks like it's a corrosive, maybe. Acid, if anything. Let's see here. For your combat check, reveal this card to use your dexterity or range skill plus 1d4 plus 1. You may additionally recharge this card to add another 1d4 and the acid trait. So, not as good. Not as good. And these are shields. Do they have any kind of offensive ability? Every once in a while, they'll have something cool like that. Let's see here. Bury this card to shuffle. No. Bury this card to add 2d8 to your check that invokes the swarm or poison trait. No. No. Okay. So yeah, I think I'm going to use this Galvanic Chakram. I left the door to my office open by accident. Let me close that real quick. Alright, stealth check though. We got to do that stealth check. Which... Oh, he doesn't even have the stealth skill, does he? I mean, he's good at disabling stuff, but... Stealth 8 check, or the difficulty of the combat check is... Yeah, so he doesn't have stealth, so it's automatically going to be increased to 16. Jeez Louise. Okay. Okay, so I know I'm using my Galvanic Chakram. Do I have any... I don't think I have any blessings right now. I don't have anything else right now that can increase that. Does Elderast have anything that he can use from afar? I don't think he does. No. Nope. I typically avoid cards for Elderast that would make him helpful to other heroes anyway, because Elderast is in it for himself. So there are times thematically where I have passed up good cards for Elderast because I'm like, nope. Nope. Alright, so... what did I say? 16. Jeez Louise. For your combat check, reveal this card to use your dexterity or range skill. So for Damiel, we're going to go with ranged, and that's a d10 plus 2 that he rolls. Oof. Oof. Plus 1d8 plus 1. So it's those two dice plus 3 is my total, I think. You may additionally discard this card to add another 1d6, so I'm totally going to do that. Alright. So it's these 3 dice plus 3. And I need to get a 16 out of this. Alright. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Dang it. Ugh. So, the difference between what I rolled and what I needed to get is 2, which means that 2 damage is coming at Damiel right now. Well, first let's discard this card. Crap. If undefeated, move to a random other location. If defeated, draw an item from the box, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so nothing extra, just the 2 damage coming my way I gotta deal with. And I might have a good enough shield. Let's see. Recharge this card for the Scarab Buckler. Recharge this card to reduce acid, cold, combat, electricity, or fire damage to you by 3. So I could take care of it with just recharging this. If you played a weapon that has the 2-handed trait on this check, you may not play this card. Did I? Was that a 2-handed? No, it's not a 2-handed. Reveal this card. Oh, awesome. This is what I wanted. Reveal this card to reduce combat damage dealt to you by 2. Or reduce another type of damage by 5. Well, it was just combat damage. Yeah, it was just combat damage. So I just show that I have this, and and I don't have to worry about the damage. So now this guy is going to move into one of these 3 locations. Let's roll a d6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is how we'll do that. So he's going to go and get shuffled into this deck here. Oh, crap. That's so crappy, because now there's not going to be a henchman in that pleasure barge. And henchman is like, that's the chief shortcut for closing a location. Otherwise, the only way to close a location is to go through the entire deck of location cards. And then once the deck is empty, then you can attempt to close it. So I just lost unless I fight one of these things again and it gets relocated back to the pleasure barge, I'm going to have to go through that entire deck. That sucks. I don't mind telling you. And now, yeah. Ugh, that sucks. Sucks big time. Alright, so his turn is over. He did use 1 card, so he needs to reset his hand. So now we're good to go. And now it is Eldareth's turn again. So, let's see what we got here. Blessing of Thoth. Check to acquire is Wisdom or Knowledge of 10 or Divine of 6. Well, he has no Divine because he is very much against the gods. Wisdom and Knowledge 10. He's got Knowledge. D12 plus 2 is what he rolls for Knowledge. So there's a chance he could get his hands on this. I don't think he can keep it in his deck. Oh, let's see. When building your deck, it says you may treat any blessings that do not have the divine trait as items. Well, this one does have the divine trait, so he's not going to be able to keep it in his deck. But I could temporarily acquire it just to use during this scenario. So, you know, I might as well give it a try. Aside from that, does this one have the deal about... Yes, it does. If you fail to acquire a boon... Oh, no, this is actually not a bad thing. If you fail to acquire a boon, shuffle it into this location deck. Okay. So yeah, let's give it a go. That's going to be, again, D12 plus 2. Okay, not enough. Not near enough. So that just goes back into the box. And I don't think there's any cards I have or would want to use even to do a second exploration. So we'll just call his turn done and move it back to Damiel, who is going to explore here. Balmy Leader 6980 says, so this is like Magic, but more board game-like? Well, it's like Magic the Gathering in that you're customizing your deck, but It's very different from Magic in terms of, except that it uses cards and has a fantasy theme. Because in Magic, you're customizing your deck in between games, and you are doing some of that between games, but you're also kind of finding cards to add to your deck during the game. And there's not the whole mana system where you're tapping cards to gain mana in order to cast spells. It's fully cooperative instead of being, against another player. So it's actually quite different from Magic the Gathering. I would say that mechanically it has probably more in common with HeroQuest than Magic the Gathering. I don't know. It's pretty far from HeroQuest too, but yeah. What they're trying to do with this is take the Pathfinder tabletop RPG and reduce it into this card-based experience. And in doing that, they're also... Pathfinder the RPG is based off of Dungeons & Dragons, and so what they're trying to do is reduce basically the classic tabletop fantasy RPG experience into a card-based cooperative experience. And so you have different dice representing different stats. You're rolling a full complement of, D4s through D20s in this game. Well, maybe not in this expansion. I think Wrath of the Righteous is the first one where you can potentially roll a D20. But, you're using basically a full set of dice that change depending on your stats. So it has a lot of core DNA in common with some of the rules and how you roll and do checks in some tabletop fantasy RPGs. And I think that actually they do a really neat job of reducing those things down and still having a lot of those checks represented. For example, in other dungeon crawl RPGs, like say HeroQuest or First Edition Descent, you don't have mental checks happening very often. They're not built into the rules very well, or charisma checks. But in this game, you're doing checks to disarm traps, to sneak up on somebody and maybe get extra damage on them with a stealth attack. There's a card, one of my favorite cards to run into in the Rise of the Runelords game is like this, like this beautiful redhead. I think it's called the Bartender's Daughter or something like that. And she's a barrier. She's classified as a barrier because her beauty and charisma can actually distract you from what you're doing. And so, that's what's being represented in the rules. And so, and you just kind of infer that. I infer that from, okay, they got this picture of this this kind of beautiful woman. She's a barrier. You have to make a charisma check or something along those lines to avoid being kind of stuck by her. And so they're just simulating a lot of theme from tabletop RPGs outside of combat in this reduction of the tabletop RPG, and you just do not see that often because it would be too complex, but they found a way to do it in a very, for me, satisfying thematic and mechanical way. So yeah, you have to bring a little bit of imagination, but I just love how diverse of stats and skills and weapons and equipment and items can all be represented in a game that is not that complex. Let's see. Okay, so let me keep going here. This is Damiel, and what do we got here? We've got the Sebti the Crocodile. This is a potential ally. And remember, if I don't acquire this ally, Sebti's going to stab me in the back. So we are either allies or enemies, is how it's working on the Pleasure Barge. Let's see, Charisma, Diplomacy, or Divine of 9 in order to acquire this ally. When you examine this card, well, I'm not examining it, so we'll skip that. If you fail to acquire this card, shuffle 3 random monsters from the box into your location deck. Jeez Louise. So it's kind of like, if we walk away as enemies, she's going to stab me in the back, and then also she's going to call in recruitment. She's going to recruit enemies and be like, this person cannot get off this ship alive. Jeez Louise. Recharge this card, so if I get this in my hand, this is how she'll be useful to me as an ally. Recharge this card to examine the top 2 cards of any location deck. Discard this card to explore your location. During this exploration, add 1d6 to your diplomacy checks. Now, I might use that. This first one about examining top 2 cards, I'm not really interested in. The trigger mechanic, as I mentioned last time I was streaming this game, is something that I ignore in this while I'm playing this set. I really hate this trigger mechanic because I really like to explore, and that trigger mechanic I feel like discourages me from exploring and investigating and seeing what's out there. And so I am ignoring it when it appears, and then also I'm just tending to avoid skills that take advantage of examining decks, the contents of decks before actually encountering them. So she's not really appealing to me, but I do need to attempt to acquire her, and if I fail, I am going to get stabbed in the back. So I at least want to try and succeed at this. Charisma, diplomacy, or divine? Let's see. His charisma is terrible, d4+1, so he's kind of like a really brilliant savant off in the corner who has no social skills. I mean, he has less social skills than Eldoras does. So we're not going to go that route. Charisma or diplomacy is not going to work for him. Divine? Oh, crap. He doesn't have divine at all. So he is going to fail at this check. He's going to fail at this check. There's no... Does he have a blessing? Does he have anything that can help him? I don't think he does. Crap. No, I have nothing. Does Eldorast have anything? Eldorast has nothing. So I'm just going to fail at this check. That super sucks. So let's see. If you fail to acquire this card, shuffle 3 random monsters from the box into your location. That's terrible. That's terrible. And I'm dealt 1d4 poison damage on the way out. So let's take care of the poison damage first. Jeez Louise. Oh my gosh, 4 poison damage coming to my way. And there's also like a thing specific to poison in this game, so... let me see if I can deal with this poison damage in any way first. Ooh. Yeah, Alchemist's Shield. Reveal this card to reduce combat damage dealt to you by 2, or to reduce another type of damage, such as poison damage, by 5. If you recharge a card that has a trait that matches that damage type. If proficient with light armors, you may play another armor. I bet I have something that'll match poison. I've got to have something, right? Okay, so I can recharge my Noxious Bomb. I'm not sure thematically how to make sense of that. Alchemist's Shield. Maybe in some way it's charged by chemicals or something. I don't know. That's weird. That's weird. So that abstraction I'm not really a fan of at the moment, but I am a fan of avoiding that poison damage. So yeah, I'm going to reveal this, recharge this. Recharging in this game means instead of discarding, you place it at the bottom of your deck, so you can get access to it later. And that's important because your deck not only represents your skills, your equipment, but also your health. If you need to reset your hand to your hand size, as you are supposed to do at the end of every turn, and you are unable to do that completely because you run out of cards in your deck, you're dead. And that's bad. That's very bad. Or so I hear. Let's see here. So that I did avoid the poison damage. What was the rule about the poison? I think I actually have to receive the damage, right? When you are dealt poison damage, if that damage is not reduced by at least 1, then you suffer the Scourge Curse of Poisoning. So that was totally reduced. Don't have to worry about that. Still haven't had a combat check that's greater than 19, so I think we're good on that front. Okay, so now we have to deal with shuffling in these monsters. And 1, 2, 3. Crap, and she goes back into the deck, doesn't she? Because when you fail to acquire an ally... Oh, wait, no. Succeeded a charisma or diplomacy check. Oh, no, that's the Great Library that things get shuffled back into. So, she doesn't go back in, I don't think. Nope. No. Okay. So at least I don't have to deal with her again. She's getting off the boat, but she's sending her henchmen in to try and deal with me. Ugh, that sucks. Oops. Gotta do my shuffling here. Not very good at shuffling, but I picked up this method of laying out your cards in a certain pattern from back in the days when I was playing Magic the Gathering. Speaking of Magic the Gathering, there was a player that I played with at a store when they had like Wednesday night Magic nights or whatever that showed me this way of shuffling that I've used ever since. Because I suck at doing the, what do you call it, the riffle shuffling. And it just helps randomize the decks a little bit more too, so... Alright, so I believe that's the end of Damiel's turn. Did he... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... Yeah, I did recharge a card, so I do need to reset my hand. And I picked up Ushabti of the Willing Servant. Well, we'll take a look at that when it's relevant on my next turn. Let's see. Balmy Leader asks, do you like Left 4 Dead 2? Have you even played it? I have not played it. So the answer is no. I was going to say no and no, but that wouldn't be... It would be like, I don't know and no would be the answer to that. Alright, so now Elderast. Okay. Alright, let's see what we're facing. Oh boy! It's Tefu Librarian. I wonder if it's the one that got shuffled in there, or if it was one that was... Oh, there is more than one type of henchman in this game, so it could be either way. Check the defeat. Well, he's not going to be able to sneak up on him because Elderast doesn't have any kind of stealth ability. So it is going to be a check of 16 in order to defeat this thing. And he's immune to the mental and poison traits. I don't think that's going to be an issue for Elderast. He's usually doing physical elemental damage. But I got to get a 16. I actually have more faith that Elderast can pull that off than Damiel. Because Elderast, I really try to build him like a glass cannon. So what do we got here? Toxic Cloud, but that has poison, so that's not going to be a good option. I got 2 copies of Scorching Ray. What's this Death Grip? For your combat check, discard this card to use your Arcane or Divine skill plus 2d8. Ignore any non-villain monster's power that happens before you act. So this would give me my Arcane die plus 2d8 and ignore his that stealth check. So I would basically be able to, cut through those extra defenses that he has. That would be cool, but is that going to be overkill? Do I really need that right now? What's this weapon? For your combat check, reveal this card to use your strength or melee skill plus 1d6 plus 1. You may additionally recharge this card to add 1d6. I don't think that's my best option. He is allowed to have 1 weapon in his deck, but it's never as good of an option as his spells. Okay, so I could do this one or Scorching Ray. Could Scorching Ray be enough to get 16 out of? So let's see. For your combat check, discard this card to roll your Arcane die plus 2d6 with the Fire trait. Now, he's got some abilities. I keep forgetting they have special abilities on their character sheets. Elderast can discard a spell and then explore his location, but I almost never feel like that's worth it. When you encounter a Bane that has the Acid, Cold, Electricity, Fire, or Poison trait, he doesn't have any of those traits, so never mind that. You may recharge a spell to add 1 die to your check against a Bane that invokes the Acid or Electricity or Cold or Fire or Poison trait. He doesn't invoke any of those things. So, yeah, I think I'm going to use Death Grip. I think that's going to be the best way to go on this one. So that does mean the check is only 12. And I can roll my Arcane die, which is D12 plus 3 for starters. That's really nice. And then 2d8. So it's these 3 plus 3, right? Okay, and I got to get a 12 out of this. Come on, that's got to be doable. Right? Oh crap, I'm trying to remember this rule here. You may recharge a spell to add 1 die to your check against a Bane that invokes the acid or electricity or cold or fire or poison trait. I think the way that sentence reads, I'm wondering, do I add that to a check that invokes those things, or a check against a Bane that invokes those things? If I remember the rules correctly, which I don't, so let's see if we can look that up. Crap. If I can find it quickly, then I'll look for the answer. Oh, here we go. A check invokes a trait if it has or is against a card that has that trait. A card invokes a trait if it has that trait. A Bane also invokes a trait if it deals only damage of the type that matches that trait. So basically, yeah, I could use that ability because this Death Grip does include the cold trait. So I could recharge a spell to add 1 die to my check, which the default die that you add whenever it says add a die is your base die, which in this case is my arcane die, which means another d12. And this is a bit of a house rule because the rules don't specify that I've been able to find. You know, my arcane die is d12 plus 2. So is the plus 2 part of what constitutes my arcane die, or do I just add the die itself? And I have ruled in my solo games that it does include the extra pluses. It may not, but I do like to give myself a little bit of an advantage when I'm playing solo. I tend to like a little bit more of a casual kind of experience. So yeah, baby, let's do that. Which are we going to? We can recharge. I have 2 copies of Scorching Ray. I like them both, though. Toxic Cloud. I guess I'll do one of my Scorching Rays, since I have 2. It's a great spell, but... and I'm not losing it. It just goes back under my deck. So... Oh, oops. I just put it under Damiel's thing. This goes under... There. Goes under Elderast's deck. Alright, so we are playing Death Grip. It's getting this plus what? What is it now? This plus 6? 1, 2, 3. Arcane. Yeah. This plus 6. And I've got to get a what out of it? Oh, I'm over here. I've got to get a 12. Oh, I've got really good odds here. Oh, this might be the overkill, though. Oh, I think it is. Let's see here. So 6, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Yeah, so I totally triggered that one thing. Defeated this Tefu Librarian, that's for sure. If defeated, draw an item from the box. Then you may immediately attempt to close the location this henchman came from. So that's good news. Let's draw an item, see what we got. A magic carpet. It's a magic carpet ride. Every door will open wide for happy people like you. Sunny days sweeping those clouds away. You know the song? On my way to where the air is sweet. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? All right. So recharge this card to evade a Bane that has the trigger trait. That could be handy, even though I'm ignoring the trigger trait thing. Then move all characters at this location together to another location. I don't know. I'm just going to draw it for now. I'll worry about its usefulness later. But I got to deal with this. When you fail to acquire... No, it's not when you fail to acquire, but it's this... where's that rule? When you... Oh, here we go. Here we go. If the result of your combat check is greater than 19, which it totally was, bury a random card, then summon and encounter the henchman Voices of the Spire. Oh, crap. Crap. Alright. Alright. Francisco asks, is that where Alibaba lives? Yes, I believe he does live on Sesame Street. And probably cursed a bunch of people to turn into giant Muppets. I think that's what went down there. Crap. Crappity. Does this happen now? Ugh, it happens before this location closes, right? I mean, if your combat check is greater than 19, bury a random card. Not a fan. So I think this happens before he's killed and this whole thing is resolved. He is going to die, but I got to bury a random card. So it's even before I draw the item. So let's set that there for now. I need to bury a random card. So without looking at my deck, burying means that you get rid of it for the rest of the game, basically. So whatever this is, Toxic Cloud, crap, gets just slide that into my character sheet, and that's gone. Super sucks. Super sucks. And now I need to summon and encounter Voices of the Spire. The difficulty defeat is increased by twice the scenario's adventure deck number. So it's a 14 in combat. Yeah, I'm not going to use charisma or diplomacy. So 14. If defeated by a combat check or if undefeated, suffer the Scourge Curse of Vulnerability. So either way, I'm suffering the Scourge Curse of Vulnerability. This is terrible. Okay. Alright. I gotta succeed at a check of 14. Okay, we can't use Death Grip. That's already kind of like we're in the middle of that resolving. So I've got Scorching Ray. Can I get a 14 at a Scorching Ray? Man, this is getting complex. Usually this kind of stuff doesn't happen. All this stuff layered on top of each other. This does remind me a little bit like Magic. When you're playing like blue stuff, you can have cards that interrupt others, and then all these things get triggered, and there's kind of like called a stack, I think, of effects that have to be resolved in a certain order. It's getting a little bit like that. I don't usually experience this when playing Pathfinder, the adventure card game. Okay, so for your combat check, discard this card to roll your arcane die plus 2d6. Where's another d6? With the fire trait. Now, if I have another spell, because that's evoking the fire trait, you may recharge a spell to add 1 die to your check. So I can recharge any spell. I might want to use Remove Curse. I might want to recharge it. I think I am going to recharge it. Man. This is crazy. Hopefully these 2 spells I'm in the middle of using will get recharged. Otherwise I'm losing a lot of cards at once from my deck. Okay, so that's actually going to add another arcane die. So it's this plus 6 that I need to get 14 out of. I think there's a decent chance of that. Yeah, okay. But this is another combat check, isn't it? Hang on a second. Can that really be... Can I really end up summoning another Voices of the Spire? Can it really pile up like that? I refuse to believe that. Oh, man. Is there more than one even henchman called Voices of the Spire? Let me look. If there isn't, then I definitely won't summon another one. But if there is, I still may not, because I just don't like that. Voices of the Spire, Voices of the Spire. It's a... Oh, he's like a... kind of a base bad guy. He's a C card. Not seeing him yet. Usually there's more than one copy. Oh, yes, there are. There are many copies. There are many copies. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not summoning another Voices of the Spire. That's ridiculous. To have to do that on a check against Voices of the Spire. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So I'm defeating him. If defeated, well, I can't use him to close the location. But if defeated or by a combat check, or if undefeated, suffer the Scourge Curse of Vulnerability. I mean, that's bad enough. That's bad enough, man. And I still might encounter him again later on in this game. Alright, Curse of Vulnerability. What do we got here? And I think I just recharged my spell that lets me get rid of curses, didn't I? Curse of Vulnerability. While displayed, you may not reduce acid, cold, electricity, or fire damage dealt to you. If you are dealt 2 or more acid, cold, electricity, or fire damage, banish this card. Okay. So at least it doesn't stay on. It just gets its licks in and then goes away. If you already have Curse of Vulnerability displayed, banish this card. Alright, I don't. Ugh. Not a fan. Okay. So, that takes care of Voices of the Spire. Then we follow through on Death Grip, killing the Tefu Librarian. Drawn item for the box, so I got my drawn item. And now I can try to close this location based on its close location requirements. But let me actually, I need to resolve a couple of things here. Death Grip first. After playing this card, if you do not have either the Arcane or Divine skill, banish it. I've got Arcane, so I don't have to banish it. Otherwise, you may succeed in an Arcane or Divine 10 check to recharge this card instead of discarding it. So that's, I really want to succeed at that rather than discard. So, let's see. Arcane or Divine 10. So I roll my Arcane die, plus 3. Oh, yes! I got an 11. So, Death Grip, a great spell, gets recharged instead of discarded. Now we're going to do the same thing with Scorching Ray. Succeeded an Arcane 8 check to recharge this card instead of discarding it. Come on now. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. I got a 12 plus 3. Very good. Alright, well that was rough, Elderast, and you did not come out unscathed because you have the Curse of Vulnerability attached to you. But you did take out the Tefu Librarian, so he goes back in the box. And you can try to close this location, which I'm a little bit sad about because there are 3 spells, and I don't think I got any of them, but dang it. At the end of the day, I almost can't complain about being able to more quickly finish a scenario, because your Blessings deck that you're drawing cards from every turn, it is a ticking clock, you know, that you've got to overcome. Succeed at an Intelligence or Knowledge 6 check. Alright, so he has Knowledge. That's going to be better than Intelligence. That's a D12 plus 2, and I got to get a 6 in order to close the location. Yeah, okay. 4 plus 2 is 6. So let's see what I missed out on. I mean, this gets wait, on closing. On closing, draw a spell from the box. Well, let's see what we got. Anything good? Come on now. Oops, wrong deck. Here. Oh, dang it. It's just like a basic spell. Clinging Venom. For your combat check, discard this card to use your Arcane or Divine skill plus 1d8. If the Bane is a monster, you may use the result for any additional combat checks to defeat it. After playing this card, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, discard this card. So it's a pretty weak attack spell. I am going to put it in my hand for now, because it kind of functions as a health point in some ways, even though it's not as good offensively. By putting it in my hand, I don't have to reset as many cards used, you know, from my deck to get my hand reset. Alright, so what did we miss? We missed an ally. It doesn't concern me much. We didn't have to fight a Shock Elemental or another Tefu Librarian. Toxic Cloud would have been nice to get my hands on. Another Shock Elemental. Speak with the Dead. Nah, I like offensive spells. Minothet, Holy Light, that's divine. I wouldn't have been able to keep that anyway. So, really, I just lost an opportunity to get a second copy of Toxic Cloud, which I might not have even wanted for my deck in the end anyway. I don't know. So I'm feeling okay about that. So we'll just set these cards aside for now. This location is closed, and nothing special about it when it's closed. Dang it, I still have that Curse of Vulnerability. Boy, that was quite the lengthy turn, but let's, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's reset our hand. 5, 6, 7. Oh, dang. All 3 of my new cards are offensive spells, so I can't complain too much about that. Alright, so that's, at long last, the end of Elderast's turn. Holy crap. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We've got a ton going on here at Spirit Blade Productions and Christian Geek Central, including our in-depth Bible study for geeks, movie, game, and other entertainment reviews or commentary, live streams, Christian geek news, original audio dramas, and tons more. And on top of all that, you can become a Spirit Blade insider with an influential voice and get access to exclusive content and rewards. It's your involvement as a patron that will keep all of this going and growing, so I want to thank you for your consideration in that. For more information, please check out our Patreon page through the link below at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Thanks for listening.